In my new life, the first and most definitive decision I made was to sever every tie with Alex. He was set on attending a prestigious military academy up in New York, a dream he'd held for as long as I could remember. So, I quietly logged into the application portal and switched my first choice to the Federal Law Enforcement Academy in Washington, D.C. The entire strategy was built on geography, on putting as many miles as possible between us. I wanted us to be on opposite ends of the country, a distance so great that a chance encounter would be statistically impossible. When he came back home for the holidays, fully expecting me to be waiting for him, I was already gone. I had packed a single bag that same night and just started driving, with no destination in mind other than away. I didn't answer his incessant calls, nor did I reply to the string of texts that flooded my phone. Years later, the moment I heard he'd been transferred to the city where I was working, I walked into my supervisor's office and immediately requested a transfer of my own. I was determined not to even breathe the same air in the same room as him. You see, in my past life, I had loved him for 30 years, a long, agonizing stretch of devotion that was met with an equal 30 years of neglect. My life ended in my 40s, the final month spent wasting away from cancer in a sterile hospital room. During my final moments, the moments when a person is supposed to be surrounded by loved ones, Alex was busy. He was decorating his new house, preparing to finally marry Clara. The two sons I had poured my entire being into raising, the ones whose every scraped knee I'd cleaned and every success I'd celebrated, were bustling around, eagerly helping with the wedding preparations for their father and his new bride. I was utterly alone, lying in that cold hospital bed, just waiting for the inevitable. I refused to live such a pathetic, heartbreaking life ever again. After clicking the submit button on my revised college application, a profound sense of relief washed over my entire body, a physical unclenching of muscles I hadn't even realized were perpetually tense. Finally. I was finally free from the tangled, painful web that was my connection to Alex. No one in the world knew that I had been given a second chance, that I had been reborn with the memories of a life squandered. The deadline for the early decision application was tomorrow at noon. I had been worried the school's servers would crash from the last-minute traffic, so I had snuck out of the house late at night, driven to the deserted library, and used one of their computers to change my future. In my last life, I had chased Alex for my entire existence, and I had resented him for just as long. In the end, all that desperate pursuit and bitter resentment earned me was a lonely, bitter death. This time, I wanted nothing more to do with him. I wanted us to exist on opposite ends of the world, to live out our lives as complete strangers, never to meet again. My 18th birthday is on July 13th. On that day, in front of everyone who mattered, I am going to look him in the eye and say the words I should have said a lifetime ago. I'm not getting engaged to you. You're free. 15 more days, that was all I had to endure. I just left the library's quiet computer lab when my phone buzzed with a text from him. Hey, I'm out with friends and might be home late. Cover for me, thanks. The familiar request, the casual expectation that I would lie for him. I just texted back a single letter, K. Alex and I were the textbook definition of childhood sweethearts. His father and my father were old army buddies, their bond forged in shared hardship. His mother and my mother were best friends and worked at the same school. After my own mother died, I had lived at his house for 3 years, a permanent fixture in their family. I always called his mother Mrs. Dawson. She treated me with a kindness that often seemed to surpass the affection she showed her own son. Of course, I had a secret, all-consuming crush on him, but his heart had always belonged to Clara. My original plan, before everything went wrong, was to bury those feelings deep down, to lock them away and simply be his adoring little sister for the rest of our lives. But on the night of our high school graduation, everything changed. Alex took me to a bar to celebrate. I got drunk, far too drunk, and was assaulted by 2 men in the grimy bathroom. If Alex hadn't noticed I was gone for too long, if he hadn't come looking for me, I don't know what would have happened. The violation and humiliation I felt in the aftermath were so profound that I nearly took my own life. Mrs. Dawson, consumed by her own version of guilt, decided that Alex hadn't protected me adequately. As penance, she forced him to agree to get engaged to me. Weighed down by his own guilt, Alex conceded. The plan was to have an engagement party as soon as our college acceptance letters arrived. Clara naturally couldn't handle the news. She threw a massive fit, and Alex, ever the dutiful lover, made up every excuse he could think of to rush to her side and comfort her. In my past life, Alex was hopelessly, blindly in love with Clara. He would have given up anything and everything for her, including his principles, his future, and his conscience. The more I clung to him, desperate for the love I thought I was owed, the more I lost myself. And the more I lost, the more I refused to let go, trapping us all in a miserable cycle. I used every trick in the book, every manipulative tactic I could conjure to fight them, wanting them to be as miserable as I was. In the end, Mrs. Dawson, the woman who had been a second mother to me, cut off all contact. Even the two sons I worked so tirelessly to raise grew to despise me. I personally overheard them talking one day. "Mom's life is so miserable," one said to the other. "It'd be better if she just died. Then Dad could finally be with Aunt Clara. It's been 30 years they've had it so rough." This time, I refuse to be the villain who breaks them up, and I certainly don't want those two ungrateful brats for sons. I will let them have their so-called happy ending, and in doing so, I will finally let myself go. Changing my early decision application was the first concrete step in extricating myself from Alex. More importantly, it was the first step in living for myself. In my past life, to be with him, I had abandoned my own dream of attending the police academy. I followed him to the military academy he was obsessed with. The fully militarized system there was far stricter and more unforgiving than the police academies. The training hours were longer, the programs more intense, leaving me in a constant state of physical and mental exhaustion. It was pure, unadulterated misery. What made it exponentially worse was having to watch Alex and Clara making eyes at each other, their secret glances and stolen touches a constant, public torture right in front of me. I was burning with jealousy but didn't dare say a word to call them out. After all, in that twisted triangle, I was the other woman. Later, Clara was suddenly and mysteriously expelled from the school. Alex, without a shred of evidence, immediately decided I was behind it. From that day forward, he never gave me a kind look again. After we graduated from college, he kept putting off his promise to marry me, always finding a new excuse. That is, until he received a wedding invitation from Clara. To make Alex finally give up on her, she hastily married a good-for-nothing rich kid. Heartbroken and bitter, Alex walked through our wedding ceremony like a zombie. After we were married, he avoided me constantly. He was a ghost in my life, a husband in name only. He wouldn't come home for years at a time. When I would travel to visit him at his base, he would volunteer to cover shifts for his buddies, doing anything to avoid coming back to our shared apartment to be with me. Mrs. Dawson would call me every single day, her voice filled with a desperate hope, asking if I was pregnant yet. She even mailed me a set of risque lingerie, a not-so-subtle hint. To please Alex, and to give Mrs. Dawson the grandchild she so desperately wanted, I shyly put it on and slipped into his bed in the on-call room at the base. But Alex just looked at me with cold disdain, pointed at my nose, and called me pathetic. I couldn't take it anymore. I ran back home that very night demanding a divorce. He came back a few days later, full of apologies and sweet words. He sweet-talked me into staying, and we finally had our wedding night, a full 3 years late. After just that one night, I was pregnant, with twins. I naively thought that having children would make Alex finally take up his responsibilities as a husband and a father. I learned later, the hard way, that children could only tie me down. The only person who could ever tie Alex down was Clara. Even though he knew I almost died in childbirth, a premature labor brought on by Clara's cruel and deliberate provocations, he still defended her without a second thought. To make me forgive her, he knelt in front of my hospital bed and stabbed himself in the thigh with a fruit knife, twice, as if atoning for her sins with his own blood. At the time, I was still recovering, and our 2 tiny babies were fighting for their lives in incubators. He never once asked about them, let alone went to see them. I had just gotten home from the hospital when I received a video from Clara. In it, she and Alex were holding each other close, engaged in a steamy, intimate dance. Mrs. Dawson, who was just getting back from a late-night study session, saw me staring blankly at my phone and peeked over my shoulder. When she saw what was on the screen, her face contorted with fury. "That damn kid! Ditching his own wife to go fool around with some outsider. I'm going to skin him alive," she seethed. And that vixen, Clara, has some nerve. Alex is a married man, and she's still clinging to him, dancing like that. I'm going to her parents tomorrow to have a word with them. Clara's dad was a security guard at the high school where Mrs. Dawson was the dean, and her mom was a janitor there. Mrs. Dawson had never given them a hard time until she found out Alex was secretly dating Clara. Mrs. Dawson was all about social status and looked down on Clara's family background with undisguised contempt. She wanted Alex to be with me. My father was a major, my uncle was the principal of a top-tier high school, and my other uncle was a State Department director. My family's connections could pave a much brighter, smoother future for Alex. To break the young couple up, Mrs. Dawson would find fault with Clara's parents at every chance she got, hoping Clara would get the hint and stay away from her son. But Clara and her parents clung to Alex for dear life, refusing to let go of their ticket to a better life. In my past life, Mrs. Dawson and I joined forces, and even with our combined efforts, we still couldn't drive Clara away from Alex. After I had wasted away to nothing and Mrs. Dawson was too old and weak to fight anymore, Clara successfully married him. She even won over my 2 sons. This time, I won't stop them. But I won't interfere with Mrs. Dawson either. If Clara wants to be the Dawsons' daughter-in-law, she has to get past the gatekeeper. Mrs. Dawson had only one way of punishing Alex, whipping him with a feather duster. Every lash left a bloody welt on his back. She was ruthless. I thought that after the beating, Alex would resent me for snitching and give me the cold shoulder. To my surprise, he came to my room later to apologize. "I'm sorry you got the wrong idea," he said, his voice sincere. "Clara and I were just dancing. We didn't do anything else. Don't worry, I know my place. I won't do anything out of line." He sounded so earnest. If I hadn't spotted the distinct purplish hickey on the side of his neck, I might have actually believed his crap. He's always been a liar. When we were kids, he used all sorts of little tricks on me. He made me cry for him, laugh for him, and throw tantrums for him. But I never thought he was a bad big brother because, underneath it all, he doted on me. After our sons were born, he lied and said he had cut off all contact with Clara. I took our 2 boys to his army base to celebrate his birthday, only to find Clara and her daughter in his apartment, along with a room full of women's things. Later, when I was dying, I begged him to come see me at the hospital. He said he was injured and couldn't move easily. In reality, he was busy planning his wedding with Clara. In my past life, he lied to me for a lifetime. This time, I won't believe a single word he says. As long as I don't believe him, he can never lie to me again. I waved my hand dismissively. "You don't have to explain. I have no right to interfere with your freedom. Your mom was right next to me when Clara sent me the video. I didn't rat you out. It was just her own bad luck." Flaunting their relationship had backfired on them. If she hadn't deliberately tried to provoke me and assert her dominance, she wouldn't have been humiliated by Mrs. Dawson. Alex gave a bitter smile. "How could you not have the right to interfere? We're getting engaged as soon as the acceptance letters come out. Once we're engaged, I'm all yours. I'll be at your beck and call, serving you tirelessly until I die." "That's not going to happen," I said flatly. "I won't be getting an acceptance letter from the military academy, and I definitely won't be getting engaged to you. You don't have to feel so wronged, and you don't have to force yourself to humor me. Just 13 more days. Hang in there." Alex pressed, "What's in 13 days? Oh, so he'd forgotten my birthday, too. I pushed him out of my room. "The day you get your freedom back, I'll make sure of it." After submitting our applications, it was time to prepare for the military physicals. Under Mrs. Dawson's strict supervision, Alex didn't sneak out to meet Clara again. He was physically present, but mentally he was miles away, glued to his phone all day, either on long calls or video chats with her. Mrs. Dawson would catch him and beat him every time. She even handed me the feather duster once, telling me to get a few licks in to vent my anger. I couldn't be bothered to waste my time and energy on it. "Let it go," I said. Alex, thinking I couldn't bear to hit him, was quite moved. Don't worry, he whispered to me later. I'm just having normal, friendly chats with her, nothing more. I know I'm engaged. I won't mess around. What's an engagement? A marriage certificate couldn't even stop him from messing around with Clara. I just mumbled a noncommittal response. Between running, long jumps, and sit-ups, I was already dead tired every day. I also had to study for the psychological evaluation. I really didn't have the energy to care who he was being flirty with. Alex was worried Clara wouldn't pass the rigorous interview portion and asked if I had any family connections who could help her. If I wanted to, of course, I could have pulled some strings. But why would I trouble my family for someone I despised? No, I said simply. Aren't you always going on about fairness and justice? Are you going to make an exception for Clara? Alex wasn't happy with my answer, but he didn't say anything more. He just stopped speaking to me voluntarily after that. I was already used to his indifference and him looking right through me, so it didn't bother me much. Mrs. Dawson just thought we were both stressed out from the preparations and didn't want to talk, so she didn't think much of it. She just kept making us all sorts of delicious food every day. On the morning we were leaving for the physicals, Alex went out to the garden early and picked a single, perfect rose. Mrs. Dawson smiled, nudging me. Look at that. The boy's finally getting a clue. He knows to get you flowers. I didn't tell her that Clara was the one who liked roses. That flower wasn't for me. The moment Clara saw me at the testing center, she marched up and slapped me hard across the face. You're so vicious. It wasn't enough for you to steal Alex. You had to have Mrs. Dawson fire my parents, too? So her parents got fired. It seems Mrs. Dawson was truly furious this time. But what did that have to do with me? Clara didn't dare to confront her future mother-in-law, so she decided to take it out on me. Did she really think I was such a pushover? I raised my hand to slap her back, but Alex grabbed my arm, his grip like iron. Her parents just lost their jobs and her family is going through a really hard time, he said, his voice low and pleading. Don't stoop to her level. If you're really that mad, just hit me instead. Hit me as many times as you want. I laughed, but it was a cold, humorless sound. So because her family is having a tough time, she gets to slap me? Am I her personal punching bag? I asked him, my voice dangerously quiet. Who are you to her, Alex? Are you in a position to apologize for her? To take a beating for her? He finally remembered that we were engaged, that as my fiancé, he was supposed to be defending me. But he still didn't let go of my arm. If it weren't for that incident, we would have never gotten engaged. My mom wouldn't be targeting her parents. Chloe, Clara is already suffering. Can't you just try to be a little more understanding? In our past life, whenever Clara and I had a fight at the academy, Alex would always use those exact words to make me back down. He knew how much that incident haunted me, how it was a wound that never healed. Yet he brought it up again and again. To protect Clara, he didn't hesitate to stab me in the heart over and over, as if I couldn't feel pain. And now, he was doing it again. But I wasn't going to back down anymore. My face was a cold mask as I pried his fingers off my arm one by one. Alex, afraid I would make a scene and Clara would be at a disadvantage, begged me in a low voice to forgive her. Chloe, she really didn't mean to hit you. She was just so angry. I took a deep breath and cut him off. How about I call the police right now? Alex knew that if I called the cops, with an assault on her record, Clara would lose any chance of participating in the interview. After a moment of conflicted hesitation, he stepped aside. I swung my hand to slap Clara. At the last second, he still couldn't bear to see her get hit. He pushed her out of the way and took the full force of the slap on his own face. I had put all my strength into that slap, and it left a bright red handprint on his cheek. Sandra gasped. Alex, why did you do that? What right does she have to hit you? I'm going to get her back for this. Alex stopped Clara, his eyes red as he asked me, Is this enough now? Looking at their angry, wronged expressions, you'd think I was the one being unreasonable. Whatever. Only 12 more days and this would all be over. I just had to endure it. And his attention was entirely focused on Clara, worried that she'd be too upset about her parents losing their jobs and that it would affect her performance in the interview. He was so preoccupied, he didn't even notice that I wasn't in the same testing group as them. It was only during the physical fitness test that he finally realized. He came over and asked if I had changed my application. I didn't want to talk to him, so I just gave a lazy nod. He actually seemed a little angry. Why? I suddenly realized I couldn't handle a fully militarized system, so I decided not to go, I said blandly. He pressed me, asking which school I had put as my first choice. I figured telling him might make them both happy and cause me less trouble in the long run. The National Police Academy. Alex instinctively mumbled, "That's so far away." Being far away means I won't disturb your lovey-dovey life, I thought. I didn't say anything and walked past him. As I was going down a short flight of steps, a hand pushed me hard from behind. Although I managed to grab the railing in time to break my fall, I still twisted my ankle badly. It wasn't serious enough to require a hospital visit, but it would definitely affect my fitness test results. Clara sneered from the top of the stairs. "You almost made me fail my interview, so I'm going to make you fail your physical." I glanced up at the security camera mounted on the wall above us and said nothing. The test was about to start. I didn't have time to deal with her. When the examiner learned that my ankle was sprained, he moved my name to the end of the list. He even thoughtfully found a student volunteer to give me a gentle massage. The first event was the 50-meter dash. It took me 15 agonizing seconds, a failing score. There were 4 events in total. I had to pass the remaining 3. Otherwise, I wouldn't get into any of my early decision schools, and I'd have to go through the whole stressful regular application process. The examiner's eyes were filled with worry for me. For the standing long jump, my first attempt was a pathetic 1.4 meters. It took me until my third and final try to barely pass the minimum requirement. I somehow managed to grit my teeth and pass the 800-meter run and the sit-ups that followed. The moment I walked out of the exam hall, my body screaming in protest, I called the police. Clara was arrested. Alex was frantic. After getting nowhere with the police, he swallowed his pride and came to beg me. "Chloe, can you please forgive Clara? She didn't do it on purpose." I asked him if he had seen the security footage. If he had, there's no way he could say something so ridiculous. He knew deep down that she had done it deliberately, but he still made excuses for her. "She has some misunderstandings about you. I'll talk to her, slowly. I promise she will never do anything to hurt you again." Clara always believed that I had staged the whole incident at the bar, all to break her and Alex apart. That was a scar I couldn't show anyone, a deep trauma they brought up in front of me time and time again. And now, Alex was bringing it up again. I refused him flatly. "Your promises are useless. You can't control her, and you don't have the heart to punish her." Alex was deeply embarrassed by Clara's recklessness and by my refusal to give him any face. But he still couldn't let go of her. "You really can't just—" I cut him off. "When you do something wrong, you face the consequences. She deserves this. I will not forgive her. In my past life, I was too weak, always unable to be ruthless. That's how Clara got to walk all over me again and again. This time, I was determined to teach her a lesson." I turned to go back to my room, but Alex grabbed my arm, his voice a low, desperate plea. "If I were to call in a favor for all the good times over the last 10 years, for how well I've treated you, would you give me this one?" For the past 10 years, Alex had been genuinely good to me. He was like a real big brother, protecting me, giving in to me, taking the blame for me, fighting for me, especially after my mom passed away. If it weren't for him, I would have developed serious psychological issues. I wouldn't have even been able to test for the police academy. It was because of all the good he had done for me that I couldn't let him go in my past life, always holding on to the hope that he would come back to me. I had no parents to rely on, no siblings for companionship. I only had him. Back then, I didn't know that once a man has a true love, he no longer has room in his heart for his childhood friend. In this life, we will have nothing to do with each other. It's time to repay that debt. "Fine," I said, my voice void of emotion. "Remember what you just said. From now on, you and I don't owe each other anything." Seeing the finality in my tone, Alex looked a little panicked. He wanted to say something more, but I shook his arm off and slammed the door. Unable to get me to open it, he sent me a text message a few minutes later. "Chloe, I'm sorry. I hurt you again. See?" He knows everything. And yet he still chose to protect Clara without a second thought. An apology is pointless. You're just following your heart, I typed back. It doesn't matter. I don't love you anymore. There are only 6 days left of this pain. I can get through it. After Clara was released, not only did she not tone it down, but she became even more provocative and insulting. She cornered me in the hallway. You're just a parasite living off other people's charity. Who do you think you are, putting on airs? Calling the cops? Did that do any good? Don't you know Alex's dad is a military officer with powerful connections? Can you stop being so shameless and clinging to Alex? Even if you manage to hang on, how long will it last? Once we're at the military academy, we won't be back for a year at a time. Will you even see him? Even if Mrs. Dawson protects you, she can't come to the school and drag Alex back. He doesn't even like you. How could he possibly fall in love with you just because of some responsibility that was forced on him? He is not going to get engaged to you, and he's definitely not going to marry you. So just give up. I was busy looking through a catalog, picking out a dress for my birthday party, and didn't want to bother with her. But her arrogant stupidity was really getting on my nerves. I decided to be kind and enlighten her. Has Alex never told you? My dad is also a major, the same rank as his. My uncle is a high school principal, and my other uncle is a State Department director. If I wanted to crush you, Alex couldn't save you. You think Alex pulled some strings to get you out? No. He begged me to spare you and promised it would never happen again. That's the only reason I agreed to let you go. If I hadn't given the okay, you wouldn't be able to get into any school that requires a background check, let alone the military academy. Understand? Clara didn't believe I had such powerful connections. Keep bragging. In 3 years of high school, who ever saw your dad? When has the principal ever pulled strings for you? And what kind of big shot is a department director anyway? You're just a homeless, pathetic charity case mooching off the Dawson family. The word homeless struck a nerve. Even though I came from a good family with many people who could theoretically back me up, I didn't have a home. My dad was a workaholic and was never around. The last time I saw him was at my mother's funeral over 3 years ago. My uncles were busy with their own work and their own families. No one had time for me. Ever since my mom died in a car crash, I had been living with the Dawsons. For 3 years, Mrs. Dawson treated me like her own daughter, and I always thought of her as my own mother, until I was reborn. Remembering all the cold accusations and dismissive cruelty she showed me after Alex and I fell out in my past life, I could no longer feel close to her. Every day living in the Dawsons' house was agony. 3 more days. The day before my birthday, my aunt called. There's something I've been thinking about, and I feel I should tell you, she said, her voice hesitant. It's about that incident, when you were assaulted. There's been a new development. In my past life, I avoided this topic like the plague. The moment I heard the word assault, I would fly into a rage. I never let my aunt finish her sentences. Now I've come to terms with it. I wanted to hear what was so important that it kept her up at night. Go on, I said calmly. The 2 men who assaulted you, they were likely put up to it. They were already drunk and someone guided them to you. Based on their descriptions and what the bartender told the police, that person was very likely Lily Dawson. None of the nearby security cameras caught a clear shot of her face, so we can't prove she was at the bar. And there's no hard evidence she ordered them to assault you. That's why I never told you. Just keep this to yourself. Don't tell anyone. After hanging up, I was stunned for a long time, the phone still pressed to my ear. So, the person who truly ruined my life wasn't those 2 drunken assailants. It was Mrs. Dawson, the woman who was like a mother to me. She didn't like Clara and saw the value of my family's connections. So she came up with this twisted, monstrous plan to force Alex to get engaged to me. I was just a pawn she used to break up Alex and Clara, a stepping stone to pave Alex's future. No wonder she was always encouraging me to fight with Clara over him. After I lost to Clara time and time again, she dismissed me as useless, unable to hold on to Alex's heart, and stopped caring about me altogether. She left me to raise two sons all by myself. When I fought back fiercely against Alex, she stabbed me in the back with her schemes. From beginning to end, she never genuinely cared for me. It was all calculation and manipulation. Just then, Mrs. Dawson came into my room, beaming and holding a large, beautifully wrapped box. "Chloe, Mrs. Dawson has a surprise for you. Quick, open it and see." I obediently took the box and opened it, feigning surprise. Wow, what a beautiful dress. "Thank you, Mrs. Dawson." She held the dress up against me, looking more and more pleased with herself. "How about you wear this dress on your engagement day?" "Okay," I said, my voice sweet. "I'll wear this dress when I get engaged to Alex. I'm going to give this dress to Clara. It should be very interesting to have her as your daughter-in-law. You ruined my life. I'll make sure yours is never peaceful." I linked my arm through Mrs. Dawson's and smiled. "Mrs. Dawson, tomorrow, I have a surprise for you too." My 18th birthday party was held at the most luxurious hotel in the city. The guest list wasn't long. Besides close family friends from both my parents' sides, there was only Mrs. Dawson and Alex. She was all smiles, chatting happily with my relatives. Alex stood awkwardly to the side, greeting my uncles with a strained formality. A server came in to ask, "Miss Pan, there's a young woman outside named Clara who says you invited her. Should I let her in?" Hearing Clara's name, Alex flinched and shot me an angry, questioning look. Mrs. Dawson, however, smirked with satisfaction, giving me an approving glance. My aunt shot a cold look at Alex. "Is that the same Clara who pushed you and almost made you fail your physical?" I smiled and nodded, telling the server to let her in. Alex tried to stop it, but the server paid him no mind. Clara was wearing the same white dress she wore when she danced with Alex. She had makeup on and her hair was in a pretty braid. She was beautiful and confident. She stood proudly at the door, but when she saw me surrounded by my family, the light in her eyes instantly dimmed. When Cinderella crashes the prince's ball, there's not just surprise, but also a deep, gnawing insecurity. Alex immediately went to her, using his body to shield her from the probing eyes of the others. He was so thoughtful. He used to be like that with me. "What are you doing here?" His eyes were full of worry. "Chloe invited me," Clara whispered, her eyes wide. "She said you were going to propose to her today." "Alex, can you please not propose to her? I really like you. I know I can't compare to Chloe, but I really, really like you." Her voice trailed off. She had also just turned 18, and seeing the opulence of my party, she finally understood the vast gap between our worlds. If she were Alex, she would also choose me over her. She gripped his hand tightly like a drowning person clinging to a piece of driftwood. Seeing that I wasn't making my next move, Mrs. Dawson's face grew impatient. She prompted me, "Chloe, why did you ask her to come?" As if just remembering, I had the server go upstairs to our room and bring down the large box Mrs. Dawson had given me. I handed it to Clara. "This is the engagement dress Mrs. Dawson got for her future daughter-in-law. Why don't you try it on and see if it fits?" Clara took the box with both hands, looking at Mrs. Dawson in delighted surprise. "Ma'am, you're going to let Alex get engaged to me? And you even got me a dress." Alex stared at me in a panic. He had just managed to convince himself to give up Clara and get engaged to me, a decision he had agonized over for so long. He never expected that I would be the one to suddenly call off the engagement, that I really didn't want him anymore, that I had even orchestrated this whole meet the parents drama to publicly force his mother to accept Clara. He finally understood what I meant when I said I would set him free. The panic in his eyes grew and grew. I spoke before he could. "Do you like the surprise? I've been planning it for 2 weeks. Alex, this time you don't have to say you're sorry, and you don't have to thank me, because I didn't do this with good intentions." Mrs. Dawson panicked and snatched the dress back from Clara. "In your dreams? Who do you think you are? This is Chloe's dress." "Chloe, didn't I tell you yesterday? This dress is for you to wear on your engagement day. How could you misunderstand me like that?" She was the one who misunderstood. I only accepted the dress. I never said I would wear it. She gave me a surprise, so naturally I had to give her one in return. I took the dress from Mrs. Dawson's grasp and handed it right back to Clara. Alex loves Clara, so naturally, the one he gets engaged to should be Clara. Mrs. Dawson, you shouldn't try to break them up. Love conquers all. You should trust that they will support each other and become better people together. I also took off the four-leaf clover bracelet that Alex had given me as a birthday present and gave it to Clara. This bracelet is from Alex. Try it on, see if it fits. Alex and Mrs. Dawson were completely stunned. Chloe! Alex reached for me, but I gracefully dodged him. I gave the dazed Clara a little push. Go on, change into the dress. If it doesn't fit, Mrs. Dawson can get it altered. Clara thanked me gleefully and went off with the server, clutching the dress. Mrs. Dawson tried to stop her. Stop! That's not yours. You can't touch it. My aunt pulled Mrs. Dawson aside to reason with her. You can't force love. The girl seems nice enough. I'm sure she'll be successful one day. Mrs. Dawson blurted out, She's a security guard's daughter. How is she worthy of my son? If you like her so much, why don't you let her marry your son? My aunt just shrugged. She doesn't like my son. Besides, my son already has a girlfriend. She's a prosecutor, very capable. This made Mrs. Dawson even more furious. She twisted Alex's arm hard a couple of times and shoved him in front of me. Alex, hurry up and explain things to Chloe. Tell her you love her, not Clara. Hurry! How could Alex say something so dishonest like, I love you, in front of Clara? He couldn't bear to see her suffer even the slightest bit of hurt. At the same time, he was well aware of how many times he had hurt me to protect her. He had even used up the bond of our friendship. What right did he have to say he loved me now? Even if he said it, I wouldn't believe him. Alex looked at me with a complicated expression, a mix of hurt and regret. Just as he was about to speak, Clara came running towards him. Alex, the dress fits me perfectly. Don't I look beautiful? Alex nodded, but his eyes were still on me. Sandra wasn't satisfied with his distracted response and lightly tapped him on the chest twice. You're not even looking at me. Do you not want to get engaged to me? Alex didn't answer. His gaze was still fixed on me. It had been a long time since he had looked at me so intently. Whenever Clara was around, his eyes would always drift towards her. Now that I was about to leave, he suddenly couldn't seem to let me go. Hearing the word engagement, Mrs. Dawson went crazy again. If my aunt hadn't been holding her back, she probably would have ripped Clara to shreds. After being outmaneuvered by me, Mrs. Dawson brought up the sexual assault in front of everyone. It's all Alex's fault. He took you to that bar but didn't protect you. You must have been so scared. Are you okay now? Everyone knew that was my deepest wound. In the 3 days right after it happened, I was like a mad woman. I wouldn't eat or sleep, just making a scene day and night. My aunts and uncles, no one could calm me down. Only Alex could get me to sleep peacefully. That's why when Mrs. Dawson proposed that Alex and I get engaged, no one objected. Now that I had finally moved past it and decided not to marry him, they naturally wouldn't object either. But Mrs. Dawson's words could send me spiraling again. My uncle's eyes glinted with murderous intent. Alex kept trying to signal Mrs. Dawson with his eyes, telling her to stop. But she acted as if she were blind, continuing to poke at my pain. From now on, you should never go to places like bars where all sorts of shady people hang out. It's too easy for a young woman to get taken advantage of. My uncle was about to explode, but my aunt held him back. Lily, she said to Mrs. Dawson, her voice dangerously calm. You were at the bar that day too, weren't you? Why were you wearing a mask in the middle of summer? Did you have a cold? Or was there something you couldn't disclose? Since you were there, why didn't you just bring Chloe home? Mrs. Dawson knew she'd been exposed and didn't dare say another word. To lighten the mood, my aunt asked about college acceptances. Chloe, did you still apply to the military academy? Have the results come out? Your aunt has already bought you a new suitcase, a laptop, and everything you'll need for school. I put down my chopsticks. No, I applied to the National Police Academy. The results just came out. I didn't disappoint anyone. I got in. My relatives showered me with praise and congratulations. Clara chose that moment to chime in. You're going to be a cop? A princess like you can handle that kind of hardship? Will a cop's salary even be enough for you to buy one of your dresses? Alex tried to cover her mouth, but she playfully kissed his palm. Such an intimate little gesture might be sweet and exciting in private, but in front of a crowd, it just looked cheap. Alex's face turned beet red. He couldn't even lift his head, and I calmly retorted, "Actually, someone like me is perfect for law enforcement. I can truly be someone who can't be intimidated by power or corrupted by wealth. I can serve the people with my whole heart. If someone like you were to become a cop, that would be a real disaster for everyone. Someone could bribe you with a little pocket change. The slightest bit of pressure and you'd fold under threats." My uncle applauded enthusiastically. "Well said. Our police force needs talented people like you. On behalf of the State Department of Public Safety, welcome aboard." My aunt joined in the fun. "Well then, I guess I'll just have to welcome you on behalf of the prosecutor's office." Clara, clueless as ever, demanded to know what right my aunt and uncle had to welcome me on behalf of the state police and the prosecutor's office. It's not like they owned them. Alex didn't even want to deal with her anymore. The mocking looks from everyone made him wish the ground would swallow him whole. He left with Clara before the meal was even over. Her foolishness, when revealed only to him, might be called naive charm. But exposed to a crowd, it was just an embarrassment. Mrs. Dawson also left midway through the dinner. After the meal, I didn't go back to the Dawsons' house. I checked into the hotel instead. My aunt sent a hotel staff member to their house to help me pack my things. After staying at the hotel for 2 days, I went back to my own house. My home hadn't been lived in for 3 years. Except for the withered flowers on the balcony, everything was just as it was when my mom was still here. After a quick tidy-up, I put on one of my mom's old dresses and lay in her favorite rocking chair, dreaming of being loved. My mom was a beautiful, elegant woman who loved to dress up and have fun. She spoiled me rotten, giving me anything I wanted. She used to say that since I grew up without a father around and was a sensitive girl, she had to give me lots and lots of love so I could grow up healthy. But I hadn't even grown up yet, and she was gone. After I got my acceptance letter, I took a picture and sent it to my dad with a message. "I wanted to go see you." I wondered if it was a good time for him. I never heard back from him, but I did get an apology from Alex. "Chloe, I'm sorry. Whenever you and Clara fought, I always protected her and ignored you. I don't love her, and I never thought about getting engaged to her. I just felt sorry for her and wanted to help her." I believe that what he said was true. He liked Clara, but not enough to want to marry her. In his past life, half the reason he could never forget her was because he couldn't have her. The things you can't have are often the things you want the most. Once they're easily within reach, they lose their appeal. After turning it over in my mind, I replied with a single sentence. "Eventually, I will meet the person who will always defend me. Whether in friendship or in love, all I want is someone who will always be on my side." The day I was leaving for college, Alex wanted to see me off at the train station. I refused. "It wouldn't be good if your girlfriend misunderstood." His brow furrowed. "She's not my girlfriend. I've already made things clear to her." I gave a faint smile. "She doesn't seem to think so." Ever since Clara accepted Mrs. Dawson's engagement dress, she had been parading around town as Alex's fiancée. She even sent me texts, warning me to stay away from her man. After I blocked her, she started using other people's phones to text me. It was so annoying, I was considering changing my number. Alex didn't say anything. He just took my suitcase from my hand and started walking toward the station. I deliberately walked slowly behind him, creating a long distance between us. I didn't look at him, and I didn't talk to him. I was ignoring him, just like he had ignored me in our past life. He sensed my distance and turned his head several times, as if to say something. In the end, he kept his mouth shut. He knew. Some things could never go back to the way they were. Maybe it was to make up for things, or maybe it was just out of politeness. But Alex bought me a huge bag of snacks at the station's convenience store. I picked out a small bag of plain sunflower seeds from it. He was surprised. "You don't like the rest?" I thought all girls liked this stuff. Clara, He couldn't go 3 sentences without mentioning her, yet he claimed he didn't like her. Who was he trying to fool, me or himself? "Not all girls like those snacks. Clara likes them. You've memorized all her favorites, but you've forgotten that I like plain sunflower seeds. Alex suddenly covered his face, bowing his head in shame and choked out an apology. I'm sorry. I smiled, finally feeling a sense of release. I pulled my suitcase and walked towards the ticket gate. I didn't even say goodbye because I never wanted to see him again. I had booked a sleeper car and a slow train so I could enjoy the scenery along the way. The girl sitting across from me saw the civil law textbook in my hand and asked if I was a freshman and which school I was going to. It turned out her name was Maya, and she was also going to the National Police Academy. What a coincidence. The academy only accepted 2 female students from our entire state this year, and I ran into one of them as soon as I got on the train. She was very outgoing, and after just 3 minutes of chatting, she was already calling me her big sister, and we'd added each other on WhatsApp. We studied the civil law code together, talked about our dreams and our futures, and shared snacks. The more we talked, the more we clicked. It felt like we had known each other for ages. It wasn't until we were getting off the train that I finally checked my phone. Alex had sent me a text. I'm sorry I've neglected you these past 2 years. How can I make it up to you? It wasn't 2 years, it was 30. And I don't need you to make it up to me. I deleted all of his contact information and changed my phone number. During winter break, I went back home and visited my old homeroom teacher. I happened to hear him mention that Clara had been expelled from the military academy and was repeating her senior year of high school. I was quite surprised. She was doing fine. Why would she get expelled? My teacher looked a bit embarrassed. I heard it was for stealing from a roommate. I knew it. She couldn't resist temptation. She was probably expelled for the same reason in my past life. Why did Alex back then automatically assume it was my fault? Was he just in the habit of blaming me for anything bad that happened to Clara? In this life, since I wasn't at the military academy and had cut ties with him early on, he didn't suspect me. A year later, I was on a mission with some upperclassmen and saw Clara at a nightclub. She was all over some sleazy-looking rich kid. It suddenly dawned on me that in our past life, she probably didn't marry that useless rich kid to make Alex give up on her. She married him for his money. She sold her soul for cash, but painted herself as a tragic hero sacrificing for love in Alex's mind. She made him live with that guilt for a lifetime. Later, when she left the rich kid, it probably wasn't because of domestic abuse. It was because around that time, the rich kid's family went bankrupt. And by then, Alex was no longer under his parents' control. He had money, power, and connections. And my relationship with him was terrible. She saw a chance to rekindle her old flame with him, so she used the domestic abuse story to seek his protection. Alex, who already had lingering feelings for her and felt indebted to her, fell for it and they got back together. He, trying to maintain the integrity of a married man, never physically cheated with Clara. So she got impatient and started sending me suggestive photos and videos. She did it on purpose to provoke me, to make me fight with him and go after her. The more I made her life difficult, the more he felt he owed her, and the more he protected her. She used these cheap tricks to slowly drive a wedge between us, and in the end, she won. In my past life, both Alex and I were just pawns in her game. To think I lost and lost so miserably to such a lowlife. I couldn't just let this grudge go. The rich kid she was with was also a target of our investigation. As long as Clara's drug test came back positive, she was finished. Judging by the ecstatic, glazed-over look on her face, I knew she wouldn't be clean. With a little malicious guidance from me, she managed to rack up 3 charges: public disturbance, resisting arrest, and assaulting an officer. In the end, Clara was sentenced to 4 years in prison. During her detention, she repeatedly tried to call Alex for help, but he was stuck on his military campus. How was he supposed to run off to D.C. to save her? During the Chinese New Year of my junior year, I ran into Alex at a class reunion. He was in his military uniform, tall, handsome, and radiating a righteous air. He stood out sharply among the other men, who had all carefully dressed up. Most of the women's eyes were fixed on him. When everyone saw me, they were very warm and welcoming. Not because they had missed me after all these years, but because we had all matured. We understood the importance of connections. I felt the same way. Solving cases also requires a strong network of contacts. Everyone in that room could potentially become a future industry leader or business tycoon. I wasn't afraid of anyone, but I wouldn't go out of my way to offend anyone either. I was fully prepared for Alex to confront me about Clara. But to my surprise, the first thing he said was, "That's a beautiful dress. It really suits your style." I just replied with a cool, "Thanks." His praise, like his blame, could no longer stir any emotion in me. A classmate brought up Clara's prison sentence. "Alex, didn't you guys go to the military academy together? How did she end up dropping out? And what did she do in DC to get locked up?" Alex took a sip of his drink and said calmly, "I wasn't very close with her. I don't know the details." Not very close, don't know. With just a few words, he brushed aside the person who once made his heart flutter. So he could be this cold to Clara. How ironic. In my past life, I tried for 30 years to make him forget her, and failed. In this life, I did nothing, and they went their separate ways long ago. Was this fate, or was it a result of our own actions? He invited me to come stay at his family's house for a few days. I declined. "My schedule is completely packed. I really can't find the time." A shadow crossed his eyes. "Is there really no chance for us?" I reminded him, "Right now, we're basically strangers. After all, you already used up our past friendship to plead for Clara. I told you then, from that point on, we don't owe each other anything." He didn't say another word to me, just drank one glass after another. He could hold his liquor well, all the other guys combined were no match for him. As the night grew late, the women started to leave one by one. I was getting ready to go too. Alex, who was in the middle of a drinking contest, stood up. "I'll walk you out." Refusing probably wouldn't work on him, so I chose silence. He walked me to the hotel entrance. He then asked the question that had been bothering him for a long time. "Why don't you talk to my mom anymore?" I didn't want to answer, but he insisted on an explanation. "My mom hasn't done anything to wrong you, has she? Why did you delete her on WhatsApp too?" Since he was demanding to know, I decided I wouldn't cover for Mrs. Dawson any longer. It would also stop him from thinking I was some ungrateful person, and it would make him give up on me once and for all. Because she was the one who instigated the two men who assaulted me. That night, she was at the bar too. Alex staggered back a step, nearly falling over. "That's impossible. She would never do that to you." I gave a sarcastic smile. "Why don't you go ask her yourself?" He couldn't believe his own mother would stage such a thing. "No, she wouldn't do that to you. She always treated you like her own daughter." I shot back. "If she wasn't guilty, why hasn't she dared to contact me in 3 years? Clara was always telling you I staged it myself. And you believed her, didn't you? So why can't you believe that your mother staged it now?" He couldn't look at me. He was flustered. So he really had suspected me. He would rather believe Clara's slander than trust my character. Any last shred of feeling I had for him vanished. "Go away," I said, my voice ice. "I don't want to see you again." After he left, I immediately called Maya and made plans to go on a trip. He tried calling me from 3 different numbers, but I blocked them all. After graduating, Maya and I got jobs at the same state agency. On our very first day of work, we were each handed a thick stack of matchmaking profiles. The profiles we got were almost identical. When I went to my uncle's house for dinner, I was handed another folder full of profiles. This one was personally curated by my aunt. "These are the ones I've carefully selected based on your preferences," she said. "Every single one has a clean family background and a solid foundation. You could close your eyes and pick one and you'd be fine." I didn't want to pick. I just passed the folder to Maya. 3 months later, she had a whirlwind romance and got married. She had her eye on my aunt's nephew, and just like that, she became my cousin-in-law. 3 years later, Alex appeared in my office. "I hear you're still single. Would you consider me?" I raised an eyebrow slightly and asked him in a lukewarm tone, "Do you really think that's possible?" He gave a bitter smile. "I knew you'd say that. It's okay. I'll wait until you're not angry anymore. I've already applied for a transfer and we'll be moving here in 3 months. I want to buy a house here. Do you have any recommendations for neighborhoods?" "No," I said flatly. "I'm very busy with work. Please see yourself out." After he left, I applied for an external assignment. By the time he had bought his house and came to find me at the agency again, I was already gone. When I was 30, he tracked me down again. Chloe, I know you're not married yet. Can you really not give me a chance? I haven't had a single female friend all these years. I've been waiting for you. I knew. Whenever I ran into old high school classmates, they would mention Alex. They'd talk about how successful he was for his age, praise his intelligence and resourcefulness. They'd also lament that he had never found the right person. But I was never waiting for him. I'm not married, but it's not because I'm single, I said calmly. It's because I don't believe in marriage or having kids. I have a boyfriend. He was stunned for a moment, then he smiled. Chloe, don't joke around. I know you're a very traditional woman. If you really had someone you loved, you wouldn't have stayed. A handsome, well-built man in a bathrobe emerged from the bedroom. Babe, who's this? A colleague or a new neighbor? Alex's eyes immediately locked onto the suggestive red mark on the man's chest. He looked at me in disbelief. I just shrugged. I asked him if he wanted to come in for a cup of tea. He fled as if his life depended on it. I closed the door, ready to go back to bed for a bit. The man, Ethan, pinned me against the door. Is he your ex-boyfriend? Here to get back together with you? I slapped him on the forehead. You better tone it down, otherwise don't blame me for not giving your sister face and kicking you out. To put it nicely, you're my boyfriend. To put it bluntly, you're my friend with benefits. Don't interfere in my private life in any capacity. Ethan instantly dropped the domineering CEO act and started orbiting me like a little puppy. I know I was wrong, babe. I'll be a good boyfriend, I promise. Next time he shows up, I'll be sure to act with the grace of the main partner. I won't let you lose face. After shooing him away, the first thing I did was call Maya to chew her out. Did you give Alex my address? What were you thinking? Were you hoping to see him and your brother get into a fight? If you want to mess with your brother, just tell me. You don't need to involve an outsider. The sound of Maya sipping her coffee was incredibly loud, like a pig at a trough. I just felt a little sorry for him, seeing him search everywhere for you and finding no trace. What? Did he come at a bad time? Did he interrupt your beauty sleep? I snorted. Feeling sorry for a man is a lifetime of bad luck. She sighed dramatically. My poor brother. If I had known your heart was made of stone, I never would have introduced him to you. As if I was desperate for him. You can still introduce him to a soft-hearted goddess now. Too late, she chirped. My brother just called me, asking how he can defeat a love rival without fighting, all while having no official title. Another attempt to get a marriage proposal out of her brother. As long as I don't play along, no one can convince me to get married. And really, what does it matter if you're married or not? If you can spend a lifetime together, who needs a little piece of paper? And if the feelings change, a marriage certificate can't save anything. Isn't it better to be free and follow your heart? Alex's story. I thought I had plenty of time to win Chloe back. I thought she just needed time to forgive me. I waited patiently for her to forget all the unpleasant things, for the anger to fade. Until I saw that man in a bathrobe in her house. So she had already fallen in love with someone else. How could the girl I had protected for 18 years be taken by another man? The moment I saw him, I had only one thought. Kill him. But I didn't dare. I had already made Chloe unhappy. If I started a fight in front of her, it would only make her angrier. I went back and found her father. Mr. Pan had always liked me. I thought if he could mediate for us, I might still have a chance. But Mr. Pan told me he hadn't been in contact with Chloe for a year. How was that possible? He was her father. It was only then that I remembered that Mr. Pan was never home. His relationship with Chloe was very distant. He only came back for a week when her mother passed away and then left again. He hadn't been back since. He didn't even come back for her 18th birthday. As a father, he had never fulfilled his responsibilities. During her 3 most difficult years, only my mother and I were by her side, and we both betrayed her. I finally realized that the most pitiful girl was never the poor Clara. It was the seemingly privileged but truly lonely Chloe. She was backed by powerful connections, but not a single person was her pillar of support. My mother's kindness towards her was calculated, and my protection had long been given to someone else. She was all alone in this world with no one to genuinely love or accompany her. So now she loves none of us. What have I done? Why did I treat her like that? Why did I think she was so secure that she didn't need me? Why could I never see her helplessness and her pain? Now she finally doesn't want me anymore. And she doesn't want her father either. This is the retribution we deserve. The retribution we... Clara came looking for me again, wanting to get back together. A woman who had been with several men and had been to prison, how could she be worthy of a second glance from me? If she hadn't constantly played the victim in front of me, feigning pity, Chloe would never have left me. I hated her. I wanted to trap her and send her back to prison. But then I thought of my mother, and I agreed. I took her back to my hometown to see my mother. I told her, "If you can convince my mom to accept you as her daughter-in-law, I'll marry you." Just as I predicted, my mother and Clara tormented each other for over half a year. The more they interacted, the more they wished the other would just die. Eventually, they had a huge fight. Both ended up in the hospital. My mother threatened me, saying if I dared to marry Clara, she would jump off a building and kill herself. In the end, I didn't marry Clara. It wasn't because I was afraid of my mother's suicide threat. It was because the general's daughter, Isabella, had taken a liking to me. She was threatening to die if she couldn't marry me. The general, pestered by his precious daughter, came to me personally to ask what my thoughts were. What could I think? A spoiled, willful woman like that? Of course, I had to marry her and bring her home to serve my mother. On our wedding day, my mother tried to pull rank as the mother-in-law, demanding that Isabella kneel and serve her tea. Isabella had been pampered her whole life. When had she ever knelt for anyone? She lifted her hand and splashed the hot tea right in my mother's face. My mother raised her hand to slap her, but Isabella caught her wrist and they started arm wrestling right there at the ceremony. The guests were snickering. The general and my father were beet red with embarrassment, not knowing what to do. They both looked at me. I didn't help either of them. This was the kind of daughter-in-law my mother wanted. From a well-matched family, a young lady who would be beneficial to my career. What reason did she have not to be tolerant? Isabella had cried, screamed, and threatened her father countless times to marry into this family. What reason did she have not to accept my mother as her mother-in-law? I poured all my energy into my work, completely ignoring the drama between my mother and my wife at home. When I was in a good mood, I'd go home for a bit, spend some time with my child. When I was in a bad mood, I'd stay at my unit. My wife praised me, saying I was wonderful, not like other men who only helped their mothers bully their wives. She called me the best man in the world, capable, ambitious, and never messing around outside. Marrying me was the best decision she ever made. Are all women so easily satisfied? Was Chloe like that too? My mother cursed me for being unfilial, for letting my wife bully her. I told her to think about Clara. I asked her if she really wanted Clara as a daughter-in-law or if she preferred Isabella. My mother blurted out that she wanted Chloe to be her daughter-in-law. I couldn't take it anymore and stormed out of the house. I cried silently in the pouring rain. I wanted to marry Chloe too, but it was all too late. The woman who claimed she would never marry or have children was now married to the man in the bathrobe at her house. She was no longer the little childhood friend who revolved around me, and she had long stopped calling my mother Mrs. Dawson. Our fate ended the first time I felt a pang of pity for Clara. The rest of my life is long, and I can never again softly call her name. Chloe. If my mother hadn't hired those men to assault her back then, maybe we would have been a happy family. It's all my fault. Why was I so good to Clara? I let everyone misunderstand and think I liked her. If I had been able to see my own heart and see Chloe's more clearly, maybe our children would be as tall as me by now. If time could be turned back, I would give anything.